Hi, everybody. Welcome, freelance friends. I'm back. I am not sick anymore. So, thank you for all the well wishes. I know people sent me DMs and messages. I'm good now. It was a very long standing bug, so it hung on for like a good 2 weeks. Hi, Vicky. Vicky sent me some nice words. Thank you so much, Vicky. I'm good now. It was just one of those bugs that it just hangs on, and it's one of those bugs where you feel like nauseous and the smell of food makes you feel really sick. Like you don't want to, I didn't eat anything for a long time. And it's just one of those bugs that drains your energy. And I felt really dizzy and achy. It was just not fun, but I'm good now. So thank you for all the kind words. And we're going to do things slightly differently today. I know this is a little loud, but number one, we're going to start with a pup date. Oh, look, you guys look so cute today. Um, so a couple of notes. Bo threw up recently, so he ate something weird. Uh, so well wishes for Bo, I guess. Here you go, buddy. But he's eating food, so he's doing okay. Good girl, Charlotte. Everybody's in their hobbit hole today, so we're starting with a pup date. Bo's now 15. I know I've said that before, but we're at the point where it's like he can't. We're pretty sure he can't really hear us. Like his hearing's really poor, and his eyesight is not super great. So basically, if he throws up or has some sort of issue, we're kind of like, he's an old dog. Unless he's acting weird or unless he really has some sort of big issue, then this is part of being old. You eat weird stuff. And Charlotte's moving right along. She's going to turn 9 in a couple months, and she's got that salt and pepper look going on. So that's treating her well. So we're starting with a pup date. And so I know that I put this up before. So this is where you can ask questions. Oops, there we go. Is it centered? Cool. So I put this up, and I've had some questions. Yeah, I know they're both in the shop. Finally, Vicky, right? So we've been walking them a lot more. So I feel like maybe they'll stay where they want to stay now. Anyways, I had some questions come in a while back through my mandyellis.com/question. So if you want to submit any questions to be answered on the live stream, you can go to mandyellis.com/question. And if you want to have a topic gone over in the live stream, you can submit it too. If you're nervous about submitting, you can submit anonymously. You don't have to put your name on it. So we have an anonymous question today. Actually, we have 2 anonymous questions and 2 questions with people's names on them. So since they submitted those a really long time ago, we're going to do those first on today's live stream because they've been waiting for a long time and I've been sick and I really want to make sure we get those answered. So we're doing those first. Then we're going to get to writing outside the U.S., working with clients outside the U.S. So our first question it's a little long. So I wanted to give it all its space because it had a lot of context. So I really wanted to hear your advice about applying for contracts as a copywriter, but I have a schedule conflict. So I worked for years as a W-2 contract tech writer and found it to be an almost perfect way to earn a living. The agency handled all the tax paperwork and I didn't have to live or die by client politics. I made 6 figures, happy camper, if a bit bored. Fast forward to semi-retired, trying to switch to copywriter and needing a reliable stream of income now. So I get approached by agencies and companies that only want to work with me as a W-2 on an hourly basis. They're all scared because of the California laws and lawsuits. Oh, okay. I personally don't mind, but is there a good, better, best way to handle this? Okay, so this is a really detailed and interesting question. So I don't live in California. Let's start there. I live in Austin. I live in Texas. Different rules. California has a lot of rough and tumble rules on freelancers now that have been kind of a struggle. So my advice would be if you're going to apply for contracts. So this is a different beast, right? When you apply for contracts, when you are looking for contract work and they have you as a contractor and they have you as a W-2 contractor, which is different than a lot of times as freelancers, we work on W-9s, right? We work 1099s, and we fill out a W-9, we get a 1099. So this is a bit of a different beast. And you're also working hourly. So a lot of times hourly isn't great for doing freelance stuff. But if you're a W-2 worker and you're working on an hourly basis and you live in California, it seems like that's probably your best bet. And it also sounds like it worked for you before. It sounds like, you know, you like the way that it happened, like that they had taxes, you were making good money. And so you get approached by agencies and companies that only want to work on this way. Okay, so if you don't mind working that way, then I would say that's cool. Like, I don't want to work that way. I know that that's a thing for me. Like, I don't think I've ever worked that way as a freelance writer, ever. I think it's all been 1099. So if you like that way of working and you feel like that works for you and you live in California and there's all these rules and people are worried about things, then I would just continue to do the thing that's working. I mean, it sounds like if you're needing a reliable income stream, it was working for you before, you were applying to contract jobs, you know that system, right? You know how that works. And it sounds like you like it, right? You don't mind working that way, then I would do it. So I think for me, that comes down to personal preference. Like for me, this wouldn't work. I wouldn't want to do this. But I also don't live in California. I don't have to follow those same rules. And I think it just makes sense. Honestly, I think it just makes sense for you if you like it and it makes, like, you know how to get that work. You understand how to work as that contractor. You've been doing it for a long time. I would do it. Also, you don't have to like deal with the client stuff and you can work. I'm guessing if you have a W-2 contract, you can still work for other people. Is that true? Maybe not. But look into that. Like if you want to just have one client at a time, then this W-2 thing would probably be best. And if you want to have more than one client at a time, I would look into that and see what that's like. Like, can you work for multiple W-2s? My guess is you probably can't, but I don't know. Like I said, there's one of the things about freelancing is that the rules are different, right? The rules are different for each state, right? Like Texas is very like pro small business and they're very pro entrepreneurship and they're like, you know, California is a little bit different. They're like that whole AB5 thing is, yeah. And the other thing about AB5 is like it includes workers that are not like freelance writers and it doesn't include workers that are basically like freelance writers. Like it doesn't include like graphic designers, but it includes freelance writers. Like what? So yeah, if you like working that way, I would do it. And if you feel like that makes sense for you and you know, it's just, I think I would try to work with those agencies and companies that want to work like that. I mean, it sounds like you were already doing that. So, okay. So Tommy, here, we'll put this up. So Tommy did a quick search and you can work for multiple W-2 clients. Okay, cool. So here's the deal. Sorry, I'm a little hot today in here. It's like rainy and sweaty outside today in Texas. So hi, Diana, welcome in. I'm a Pup Date fan and a Medialis fan. Thank you, Diana. I'm so glad that you're here. We just did a Pup Date. We'll do one after this question just because you arrived. Good girl. And we just had Charlotte go back to her hobbit hole. So we're in good shape. So here's the deal. We can work for multiple clients with W-2s. So that's a good thing. So if you want to do W-2 contracting, if you want to work hourly for them and you want to have agencies and companies come to you like that, then go ahead. Feel free to do it. All right. When we'll get to, she has a second, or this person, not a she, but this person has a second question that we'll get to. But first, we're going to do a pup date because Diana came in and she loves the pup dates. Actually, I get a lot of notes about the pup dates being a fun part of the live stream. So, good girl. You're in your hobbit hole. Good boy. Bo never really leaves his hobbit hole. He does every once in a while, but Charlotte really gets wiggly sometimes and she wants to run around the whole thing. All right, Charlie, let's show everybody your trick. Can you see it? Okay. Charlie, paw. 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 Ugh. Paw. Good girl. Other one. Paw. Paw. Ugh. You gotta give me the other one. Paw. Good girl. We're working on that because she hates getting her feet touched and it's really hard to deal with her nails. So I've been trying to teach her to do the paw stuff so that she gets really comfortable with me like handling her feet. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But also sometimes when she sits like a sad stuffed animal like she is right now, it's hard to get her to like, those are her supports. You know, her little sock feet are her supports. So when you ask for her paw, you know, it's She has to shift her weight around a bunch, but Charlotte, you look like a seal. What's this? Are these your fins? These are seal fins? Good job, buddy. All right, we did a quick pup date, so we're going to get to our second question. Oops. We're going to get to our second question. All right, let's see. Where is it? Here it is. Second, how do I deal with prospects that tease but don't move forward? Story of our lives, right? I'm still looking, of course, and trying to get used to the prospects, even HR, that ghost you. I'm still looking, of course. Okay, so that means you're still looking for potential clients, trying to get used to the prospects, or I guess HR parts of the prospects that ghost you. But if you're in the middle of a text conversation and suggest a next step, like a meeting, what do you do if there's no answer? Feeling frustrated. Okay, let's talk about this. So here's the deal. Ghosting has been very much normalized in our culture across a lot of different things. So number one, ghosting is normal. This happens all the time. It happens to me, and it happens across a lot of things. It comes in business, right? People ghost people personally. That's really how it started, right? Like people start being in a relationship and then someone just ghosts them. They don't like close out the relationship. They just like move to a different city. So ghosting has become very much normalized. So number one, don't take that as like a personal affront in a business sense. Personal sense, totally different story, obviously. But in a business sense, this is normal. So here's my perception. Sorry, guys, it's a little hot in here. And I was running around before this. Yeah, thank you. So here's the deal. For me, this is how I look at it. Number one, people get 1,000 emails. Like they get tons and tons of emails, not just internally, but from all these other places. And people normally have a business email and a personal email. So not only are they filtering business emails, they're filtering personal emails. It's very easy for them to lose something, get on a different subject, forget to get back to you, something else became a priority. They just like go off and do their own thing. So for me, I often think of ghosting as like, oh, their mind is in a bunch of different places, or this project isn't as much of a priority, or what ends up happening is they have to go talk to like 25 people and they're like, oh, we're not having a meeting till a month from now, then I'll tell you. Like they never tell you that they're having the meeting until you follow up. But a lot of times they're like, oh, I have to go talk to David. David's been out of the country. Or I have to go talk to Sharon. And Sharon, we're not having a meeting with Sharon until the end of the month. So a lot of times the ghosting is like, they have their own stuff on their own end at the company. They just don't tell you about it. They're like, oh, I'll just get back to them when I have an answer. The other thing is that I have a similar thing. So for me, when I like, we've talked about this a whole bunch, I wake up to 100 emails a day. So that's just what I wake up to. That's not what I get during the day. That's not me following up. That's 100 brand new emails every day. I'm sure lots of other people wake up the same way. It's not a special circumstance. Lots of people wake up to hundreds of emails. And remembering to get back to you when there's other things that become priority is tough to do. So then they end up ghosting you because they're like doing a bunch of other things. Or like me, what I do is I boomerang it because I'm like, I can't think about this right now. I need to deal with this later. And I boomerang it out and then I deal with it later. So there's also this other thing that it moves in terms of priority, and it moves in terms of like when you need to handle it. You're like, I can't handle this right now. I have 3 deadlines. That's my priority. I'll deal with it next week. So there's a lot of things that happen like that. So number one, ghosting has become normalized. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's a good, like a positive thing, but it happens and people are overloaded, especially with holiday emails. And, a lot of times what's happening right now is like we're getting back from a holiday in the US, right? We're getting back from a holiday in the US, and I had to put a thing on my inbox saying like, hey, I'm catching up on emails. I'm doing my best. Please don't feel like you're ghosted. I'm trying to get back to everybody. And that's just kind of what happens is like people get overloaded. It is really frustrating because we're really excited. We're really excited to work with them. We're really excited that, we can have another project where we're like, yes, we're going to create all this content that like makes a difference, or we're going to create this content that is really helpful. So here's what I end up doing. I set a boomerang. So when I have a meeting with someone, my last email with them, I set in Boomerang, I say like, if no reply, Boomerang this message. And Boomerang is a Google Chrome extension that you can put in for Gmail. So if you have Gmail, install Boomerang. It's the best. I love it. I use it all the time. So every time I get my last message from them, and it's usually like, hey, I booked time with you on Thursday. Like, talk to you then. Whatever the email is, I Boomerang it for a week later. So that way, if they never get back to me, let's say I have a call with them or a meeting, or I have an email chain with them, and they just never get back to me, I already have the email coming back to follow up. So Boomerang will just put it back in my inbox if they don't reply, right? I just click this button. If they don't reply, put it back in my inbox in a week. So then I just follow up with them, and I just keep doing that forever. So here's the deal. If I have someone who's a warm lead, which is what this is, a warm lead is oftentimes basically you have something on the hanger of like, you either sent a proposal or you're about to send a proposal, or someone's like actually serious about moving forward. I'm going to give them a little treat. So I'll put them on the pup date. Here you go. Here you go. So when you are using Boomerang, you can follow up forever. Like, it just continues on. So you set this Boomerang, right? And it comes back in a week and you follow up. Hey, Sherry, or hey, Diana, thanks so much. I'm just following up on our call from last week. It sounded like you wanted to do 4 blog posts a month. I'd love to send you a proposal. Looking forward to your thoughts. Like, you can just keep following up with them, and you can keep doing that. So then you send that follow-up message, and then you click in Boomerang and say, like, if they don't reply, send this back in a week. So here's my normal follow-up schedule, just to tell you how I do this in Boomerang. So what ends up happening is, like, let's say I have a meeting, and it's our job to follow up. Just as another thing here, it's not the prospect's job to follow up. Like, we are the ones who are really looking for the work. We're the ones who really want to work for them. We're the ones who are going to create the content. We're really driving a lot of that bus there. So it's your job to follow up. I think that's across the board something that's really important. Hold on. Siri decided to record me for some reason. So it's your job. It's your job to follow up with people. And as freelance writers, it's our job to court our clients. It's not their job to come do that. Once we have a relationship with them, once we have a contract, once we have all the work set up, then it's a two-way street of like, hey, we need to communicate together. But when we're actually securing the work, it is 100% your responsibility to follow up, always. So here's my schedule. If I get on a call with them, I Boomerang for a week, okay? And it's someone who said, I want a proposal. I'm thinking about this project scope. I'm doing whatever. That kind of stuff. I Boomerang for a week, and then I do another week, and then I do 2 weeks after that. Then I do 2 weeks after that, right? So now we're at 6 weeks from our meeting. If I still don't hear anything, I Boomerang for the next 3 months. So that means I Boomerang once a month for the next 3 months, and then I put them on my quarterly follow-up schedule. So this is, by the time they get on the quarterly follow-up schedule, they've had 7 emails, right? Because they get 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, or they get 1 week, 1 week, 2 week, 2 weeks, then 3. Yeah, so they've gotten 7 emails by the time I put them on my quarterly follow-up schedule via Boomerang. So if they're not interested or not following up after 7 emails, then I just do it every quarter, because people change their minds. Quarters change. Like right now, right? Like we're in December, so people are planning for Q1 of next year. They're planning all their stuff for next year. Hey, Marie, welcome in. Marie just got a new computer, so celebrate new tech for Marie. So here's the deal. We have to keep following up. And I learned this from real estate agents. I've interviewed like hundreds of real estate agents, and a lot of like the best people, the top producers, like people who are the top producers in the US, people who like run international real estate companies, they all say the same thing. They're like, you follow up until they tell you basically to like stop. Like you keep following up, and you don't do it in an annoying way. You don't follow up every day, and you don't follow up constantly to annoy them. You follow up in a reasonable amount of time, but you keep following up with them until they're just like, hey, no, thank you. Like, try it. Like, please stop. And it's not something, like I said, like we're doing 1 week, 1 week, right? So we do a week, Like we have a call, then we boomerang, we send them an email that says following up, telling them all that stuff. Then we boomerang that for a week. If they don't get back to us, then we say that again. Then we wait 2 weeks, right? We boomerang 2 weeks out. Then we follow up 2 weeks after that, boomerang again. Then you switch them to month. Then you boomerang, and then you follow up with them once a month for 3 months. And if they haven't done anything in those 7 emails, switch them to your quarterly follow-up. So that means that when you get to month 3 of your once a month follow-ups, you boomerang them for 3 months out from that. And then if they don't answer that, 3 months out from that. And then you just continue doing that. Because, oh, Marie got a new client. Yay! Marie, was that your pillar page content? So Marie, let me know. Marie had a really cool thing where she's going to write a pillar page, which is like really super awesome. So was that your pillar page client, Marie? Because that's a big deal. So all of our follow-up schedule, like this is something that happens too, where like people switch companies, people change initiatives. Ghosting is normalized. It doesn't mean it's good. It just means that it's been normalized. And it also means that it's technically like we don't know if we're being ghosted because like I said, a lot of times I get emails and I end up responding to them like 3 weeks or a month later because I'm like, I can't deal with this right now. Like I have all this stuff, you know, and we all have this as writers. We have a lot of deadlines. We have other clients to deal with. And our clients are our priority. Like that is always my priority. Like, yes, I would love to go to this event. I would love to go visit this thing. I would love to go do all these appointments. I would love to, like, there's lots of things I get in my inbox, and I'm sure you're the same way that you're like, I would love to do that, but you're like, I just can't. My clients are my number one priority, answering their emails, getting back to them in terms of finishing work, turning my stuff in, doing good quality work. That is priority. That's always number one. So this is normal, but like I said, it's always our job to follow up. So follow my follow-up schedule. And my guess is like, you'll either get someone who's like, hey, eventually they'll get back to you and be like, thank you for following up. We've changed directions. Try again later. And then you follow up in every 3 months from there. Yay, Marie got the pillar piece. Good. That's a really big deal. So like, as we know, pillar pages are really important for websites. Pillar pages are basically like, if you go look up HubSpot, they'll tell you about pillar content and like how you do topic clusters and content pillars. So pillar pages are really important for websites. They live for a long time. So that's a big deal, Marie. And that's going to be a great clip. Like that's going to be a really good clip. So nice. That's a really big deal. I'm really excited for you. Cool. Okay. So I hope that answered the question, but remember, it's your clients are your priority. Getting ghosted has been normalized, unfortunately. And it's our job to follow up. It's our responsibility to follow up with people. Okay, other question. So hold on just a second. Okay, so we have another question. Thank you everybody for handling like the questions first. We're gonna get to our topic. I just want to make sure we answer these first because they've been hanging around for like weeks and people have been waiting because I've been sick. So I want to make sure we get to them. So Diana, I think Diana's still on. So Diana, this is your question, I think, maybe? I both have a Diane and a Diana. So Diana, this one's from Diana. Thanks for all your excellent help. You're welcome, Diana. I have 2 questions related to when you're meeting with potential new clients. Okay. How do you smoothly set prices when they ask on a call? I don't. And then it's tough when well, I do sometimes. So we're going to go over that. Grumper. What? I wish I just had like a GoPro on you sometimes. It's tough when you're on the spot not to sell yourself short. Yes. So let's talk about that first. Number one, I rarely ever price on a call unless it's something that I definitely know what it is. We've talked about the project. We've talked about the scope. We've talked about what they want. I tell them something similar. Like every once in a while, I will price on a call. So I had a call recently where I priced on the call because it's like a package that like it's content strategy. I know what that is. I know what's included in that. And I'm telling them what the scope of that would be for me. It's not the same as someone saying, we need reported articles. We have no idea what the word count is. We don't know if you need to like do research. Like it's not that. So if you have something that's a package, oh, If you have something that's a package, you have to go to your Hobbit hole. Then you can quote that if you feel comfortable doing that. So for me, when I have a content marketing or a content strategy, you have to go back to your Hobbit hole. Back up, back up. If you have a package and you feel comfortable with that, then you can quote that. Oh, sorry guys. Your faces have been, there you are. All right. You can quote that. But most of the time what ends up happening, Diana, is that you end up getting a loose goose type of deal where they're like, yeah, we're thinking blog posts. We don't know the word count. You may have to do an interview or two. We're not sure. Like, they don't give you enough information. So number one, don't price on the call. And this is why, because you're talking about selling yourself short. You feel pressure. You don't have enough details, and you're hearing about it for the first time. This is something I try to tell my coaching students and like my Freelance Writer Wealth Lab students. You are hearing this information for the first time. You're not a robot. It's not your job to be like, one burger, large fries, this costs this. Like, that's not your job. Your job is to think about it. This matters. Like, the content that we create matters. And we're not like a fly-by-night McDonald's where someone orders a content and we're like, sounds good. It costs $5. Like, it's not like that at all. We need to think about that. And we also usually need details from them. So oftentimes I leave a client call with saying like, yeah, if you send me your project scope, then I can send you a ballpark rate. The other thing was that I've told this story to my Freelance Writer Wealth Lab students a bunch. Myself and a bunch of my friends have underbid by tens of thousands of dollars, not even on just one project, on multiple different projects. So over time, right, we end up shorting ourselves. Like, oh, I guess I could do it for half price, or I guess I could do this. And you lose thousands of dollars. I have done it many times. And I've had friends, and including myself, where we've underbid by thousands of dollars. Big no-no. And it's because we feel pressured on the call. We're kind of like, okay, they said this, but it's also this. And like, we're trying to put together all of these things in our mind. You have to go to your Hobbit hole. Thank you for playing. Okay. So it's because we have to think about it, okay? So you are hearing information for the very first time. It doesn't mean you have to spit out a number. You need to think about it. So here's what you say. You say that. Hi. Yeah, I totally get it. Can you send me more info about your scope? And then tell them what you need. I need word count. I need to know if I need to do a lot of research and find studies. I need to know if I need to do interviews. Do I need to add in anything SEO-wise? Do I need to find any links? Like, do I need to comb your website to find other articles to link to? Do I need to do anything in terms of finding images? Do I need to do all this extra stuff? They need to give you a scope when you're kind of doing stuff, okay? So anytime you get on a call with someone and they're trying to get you to give a price, you have to have scope first. And the other thing is you're hearing it for the first time. Sorry guys, I'm a little shiny today. I'm hot in here. It's like humid outside because it's gonna rain, so it's like sweaty in here. Yeah. So if you want to take a peek. So anytime you're hearing something for the first time, you don't have to give them a number. If you have someone on a call really pressuring you on price, sometimes it can be that they're not your client. It means that they're really driven by price only. And even if you give them a good price, or if you give them a good price for the work, they'll still shop around and find someone who could do it lower. So anytime you feel pressured, Diana says she does feel pressured. Yeah, we don't have to succumb to that pressure. It's not something like, that pressure doesn't mean we have to give an answer. Okay, just because you feel pressured and just because someone might be pressuring you, it doesn't mean that you have to just like adhere to what they want you to do. So here you go, Bugs. There you go, buddy. So number one, my recommendation is always don't price on the call. You need to think about it, and you usually need more info on scope. You need more info on timeline. You need more info on research, interviews, images, SEO, interviews, all that stuff. So that's number one. And also, I don't set prices on calls because my work has varied quite a lot. I know other friends who are like, oh, I usually just charge this flat rate for this blog post, whatever it includes. And I never feel good about charging someone for things I'm not doing. Like, I don't like the idea of a flat rate because sometimes I do end up doing interviews and that takes more time. I have to set it up, do the interview, get the transcript, put it all together. That's a lot more effort than just writing a regular blog post just from my brain or like from a light bit of research. So again, I think it's just better just to, like, if you want to say something, you say like, hey, you know what? I actually need to think about it. I need to think about your project. For me, I just need to kind of sit down and write it out, and look at it as a whole and then give you pricing. Like, I'm not very good at immediate, I have to think through a lot of factors. I have to look at my schedule because most of the time I don't pull my calendar up when I'm on a call with someone, right? I'm on a Zoom call and I'm not like, let me look at my calendar. Sometimes I do that. But usually when we get off the call, like, we have to think about it. So just, don't do it. And the other thing is, like, don't do it in like 80% of cases. In the 20% of cases that you have a package. So let's say for me, you do like, hey, I have a package that's 4 blog posts a month for 3 months. We'll see how that's working out. And that's my package. You know how to quote that because it's your package, right? If I give someone a content strategy package, I know what's in it. It's my package. So anything that's your package, anything that you have that's a project scope that you know what's in it, you can price that if you feel comfortable. Even if you don't feel comfortable, you can always say like, yeah, let me think about it. Let me write you an email. It's easier for me to think when I'm typing. I'm a writer. It's easier for me to think when I'm typing, and I'll get back to you. So second part of this question is also during these calls, they ask how busy you are, right? So that's an important thing. That's something that sometimes is an indicator that they respect your time and schedule. So for me, a lot of times they're like, what's your bandwidth? Like, do you actually have time to work with us? Like, we want to work with you, but do you have time to work with us? That's kind of a respect thing. A lot of times they're like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, do you have room for us? So sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like, we need it tomorrow. Like, do you have space? Do it now. Like, those are two extremes. But so, she said, or Diana says, what's a smooth way to answer that without sounding like you need the work, but also sounding like you aren't too busy? That's funny. Yes, this is something that we kind of want to answer in a delicate way, because we don't want to be like, holy shit, I need this work tomorrow. Like, please, God, sign this contract. Oh my God. Like, we don't want to be like that. That's, the desperation smell does go through Zoom, okay? This does happen. I know, like, we don't have smell-o-vision, but desperation, it like a thing. It comes out. It like seeps out of your pores, like me right now, where it's like hot in here. So here's the deal. The smooth way of answering this is to be honest. I need to look at my calendar. That's what I say. Yeah, my bandwidth is like, most of the time I have to look at my calendar. The other day I had a call and I already knew my bandwidth because we're coming up on the holidays. I know my holiday time off. I know my work schedule coming up. And most of the time I'm working months ahead. So for me now, I'm like looking at like, what does February, March, April look like? Or what does March, April, what does March, April look like? Like, that's kind of where I am now. Cause I'm like seeing like, okay, what am I booking? What's going on for January and February? How are things kind of turning out? Then I have a longer runway. So when you working backwards. So when you're more experienced, you usually work 3 months out. So you're like, I don't have schedule space till April. I can like squeeze you in, or like not squeeze you in, but I can start working with you then. Like, we can work on a contract proposal, everything in March. We can get everything signed, get the upfront deposit in March, and you will get the first deliverable in April. When you're kind of starting out, you can just say like, hey, I need to look at my calendar. It's hard for me to keep all my deadlines in my mind at one time, but I'm happy to send you an email with an update on availability once we get off. You can say like, I will have availability within the next month. That's a smooth way to say it. You say like, yeah, within, December. So you say like, yeah, I have availability starting in January. And a lot of times people forget that this is a process. So the process is usually you reach out, you send an LOI, or you get an inbound lead where they're like, hey, we want to talk to you. And you're like, sweet. You have the call. You figure out project scope, you figure out what you're doing, you figure out all the payment stuff, then you're sending a proposal, then you're sending, at least for me, I sent it through Dubsado. Yes. We've got a Grumper Supreme today. Charlotte, I'm running out of Tritos. I'm just going to tell you now, we have a low amount of Tritos. And you're just like sitting over here. I mean, you're being a Gigi. You're being a good girl. So you're sitting in your hobbit hole. You are making a lot of noise, but for the most part, you're doing okay. All right. So you can say like, I can do it next month, right? This is a process. After we send all that stuff, they have to they have to sign the proposal and or contract. Then they have to pay you some money, right? We usually have upfront fees. If you're doing retainer style work, this is what you can do it a couple ways. So for me, I do retainer style work in that the first month is due up front, and then every other month I invoice on the 1st, it's due on the 15th. You can also do it so that it's 50% of the first month up front and 50% of the first month due at the end of the month. That way it kind of breaks up the first payment for them, and then every following month you invoice on the first of the month, due mid-month. That's for retainers. For something that's more project-based, like a content strategy project, content marketing project, a package that you do, that's more like we're going to do 2 case studies, an ebook, a guide, and a white paper, 50% up front, and then you can do 50% 30 days later, 50% net 45, so 45 days later, or you can do 50% due when you turn in the final deliverables. So after you iron out all that, that takes several weeks, okay? That takes several weeks most of the time. Most of the time, people don't get a proposal, contract, and invoice and do that in one day. They don't pay you and get it all set up in one day. That hardly ever happens. It does sometimes, and you're like, yes, but most of the time it doesn't happen. Oh my goodness. You have to go to your Hobbit hole. Go to your Hobbit hole. We got a grumper friend in here. So that doesn't happen. So if you get on a call with someone, this availability thing, you have to build in your onboarding time. That's all onboarding. It's all onboarding. Good girl. When you're setting up the proposal, the contract, the invoice, getting your actual payment, the money in your bank account, and it's all part of onboarding your clients. So after that's done, usually 3 weeks have gone by. So then you can say, all right, I need 2 weeks to give you the first deliverable. Now we're at 5 weeks, okay? That's a long ass time. So the deal is that you can just tell them you need to look at your availability, and then you can say, I'm available in basically, like, just pick the next month. I'm available next month. And then you start ironing everything out. And by the time they iron everything out, 5 weeks, 4 weeks have gone by, and then you can give them their first deliverable. But you've already gotten paid, and you've already set up your contract, you've already set up expectations, all that stuff. So just pick the next month. The smooth way is like, hey, I need to look at my calendar, but I'm available in but I'm pretty sure I'm available starting in January. Does that work for you? The other thing here is that oftentimes when we are dealing with clients that are not a great fit for us, they're like, we need it tomorrow. You have to do it right now. Like, oh my gosh. Sometimes those clients are great. Sometimes you get clients that are just like, here's the content brief. Can you get it to us within a week? And it gives you all the good stuff. And you're like, yep, I can definitely do that. But other times you get on calls and they're just like, oh my gosh, like you need to do it so quickly. We need to sign the contract and do all this stuff. And like you turn in work before they ever even get you the upfront payment. We don't want that. So when you're on here, it's okay to say the next month. Like there's nothing wrong with building in your onboarding period into your response. So you can say, yeah, like I need to check my calendar, but based on the deadlines that I have this month, I'm available in January or whatever. I'm just using January because it's December, but pick the next month. It always takes a while to get everybody's on the right ship. And it's not even just that, because it's not just the onboarding of like proposal, contract, invoice, getting paid, like actually having that money. Like I use Stripe, actually coming into my bank account from Stripe. It's also like, what is our schedule? What ideas are we doing? What are the content briefs? What are your expectations? What are tone and style? Can you send me some example articles or example case studies or things you like? All that stuff takes time. So it's okay to just kind of like build that stuff in. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I think that's our last, no, we have Diane's question. But the deal is like, there's nothing wrong with just like there's nothing wrong with saying you need time to review. We are, like I said, we're not a drive-through service. And I do that sometimes. I will get on a call and be like, yeah, I'm not available till March because I work further ahead. Or I know like when I'm finishing up projects, I'm like, okay, I won't be available till mid to late January to start this type of project. There's other projects I could start sooner, but this type of project I can't start till X. As you have more clients and as you have more work, you will work further ahead. And you'll be like, okay, I'm looking at Q2. So like I'm not available until April. Or I'm looking at Q3. Like I know in Q1 and Q2, I have this big giant project to do. and I'm not going to be able to work with you until Q3 till that ends. Like, it's okay to do that. And I just want to kind of put in here that, like, not even if you find this like gold star client, sometimes what ends up happening is it's not budget and it's not fit and it's not a bunch of other stuff. It's actually timeline. Okay. So sometimes what happens is that instead of you know, not being, Charlotte, settle your sass. Settle your sass. You're just like out of control. You are being a good girl. You're sitting in your hobbit spot, but you are being sassy. So the deal is that sometimes it's not budget and sometimes it's not personality fit where you're like, oh, I don't think we're a right fit on the personality front. Sometimes it's just timeline. They need it in February and you can't get it to them till June. Like, that just happens sometimes, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't work with them in the future. It doesn't mean that you can't recommend somebody else to get that work and help somebody else, right? That's a great thing about having a good freelance writer network is you're like, I can't work with you right now, but Marie can. And Marie has 20 years of experience in prop tech and real estate. She's a great fit. And let's say they're like, hey, we love Marie. It's June now. Can you work with us? Or like, it's April. Can you work with us in June? Turns out that, you know, we have more work than we thought and we'd love to bring you on. Then you're like, sure, of course I can work with you in June, right? We have all these things that we can work out. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Let's talk about Diane's question. So this is a little bit of a long live stream today. We're going to go through all these questions. Then I'm going to go over the topic. I guess I should have just made this one a question one, but I guess I didn't think that these questions would be as long. And also, I'm chatty, so... and I'm going to go through these comments. I know that y'all put some comments in here. Cool. So Diane says, the last time you talked about... No, you have to settle. Last time you talked about being a content strategist versus a freelance writer. What are some tips and resources to overcome the fear of not being a marketing expert yet? I'm sending a quote today for a big company. Okay, so I'm sending a quote today for a big company that I super want to work with for their money and their mission. And if they sign a contract, I'll be writing things I haven't before, including in marketing meetings. Asked for my opinion. Okay, do I have an opinion? Pretty sure it's somewhere. I promise not to underquote. Yeah, don't underquote, number one. Diane, I think you sent me an email on this, if I remember right. So I hope that we already chatted about this. So like, I'm feeling like you said you had to send a quote today. It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure we already got this. So we're going to answer it anyways. But here's the deal. Content strategist and freelance writer are different things. Content strategist is building the bus that drives the content. You are... Go lay down. She can just... Oh, you think she has to go to the bathroom? Okay, hold on. We're having a little... Go ahead. Okay, so here's the deal. When you're doing content strategy stuff, that is the engine that runs the content. The freelance writer part is like the execution of the content. Content strategy is like, who are we writing to? Who's our audience? How do we know that? How do we build content that makes sense for them? How do we plan out all of our content with research and data that we have pulled from competitors, our own content, our industry, thought leadership, all that stuff? Then the freelance writing part is like, who do we get to write that content? Now that we have a plan and a strategy, which is the content strategy part, the freelance writer part is like, we need someone to actually execute and write this content that we've already planned. That's the difference. The other thing is that we don't have to be a marketing expert yet, but I definitely 100% recommend, yeah, he got in there. So I definitely recommend not doing content strategy until you understand certain parts of marketing in your niche. So this is my personal recommendation. I know lots of people who do content strategy who like, you know, that works for them. For me, I needed more information and more marketing stuff in my niche before I kind of got into content strategy. So I needed to know more about their audience. I needed to write for them a bunch as a, doing more freelance writing. I needed to write for that audience, understand what their pain points were. I needed to understand what my target clients' pain points were. Like if I worked for 5 different prop tech companies, then I could know more about their pain points. That helps me give more advice and give more marketing stuff to my content strategy clients. And then also for me, when I was there's a big difference. So when you move to content strategy, hey buddy, when you move to content strategy, you are doing a lot of analysis, research, data, planning, and you're pulling from your knowledge base and the ideas that you know would work for them. So that means that you are having a meeting and brainstorming with them. That means you're looking at all their competitors and what their competitor content is doing. You are taking a lot of information like SEO stuff. You're looking at keywords. You're looking at top performing posts. You're looking at top performing videos, top performing content, and seeing like which parts of this make sense for my content strategy client. Yes, this is working for this brand, but would it work for my brand? Or how can I make it so that it makes sense for this brand versus that brand? You're also taking a lot of analysis and you're walking through like KPIs. You're walking through milestone goals sometimes. You're walking through content pillars. So you need to understand what a content pillar is and topic clusters and how that all makes sense and how you create content under those pillars. So I think you have to have like a bunch of stuff under your belt to then switch to content strategy. You have to be able to give expertise and advice at some level to them, because it's not, content strategy isn't just about like you should write these posts, and it's not just about like making an editorial calendar or like a content roadmap where you're telling them how to actually execute the content. It's really about like pulling from the clients that you've had in the past, seeing what worked and what didn't, what their audience needs, how to actually make like things that get them results. And being able to do the research that tells you, right? You have to do the research and find the data that tells you how to do all these things. And then you have to be able to analyze that data for your client. Okay, so here's the deal. I would recommend a couple things when you're thinking about content strategy and learning about content strategy. Number one, HubSpot tells you all the stuff about content strategy. You can go Google it, topic clusters, pillar posts, like anything, like all content strategy, like the 101 on content strategy. Like go read HubSpot's, all their content strategy stuff, and it'll tell you all, like basically all the things, you need to know. And I think HubSpot now has a free course. I think they have a free course on content strategy that you can take. So that's number one. HubSpot is like, I love HubSpot. They are just like, they give you all the information that you need, and it's tons of like really in-depth information. It's not like just general garbage. So HubSpot, number one, and also HubSpot courses. So I know there are inbound and outbound marketing courses in HubSpot. So if you're worried about marketing knowledge or how to figure out the funnel or how the flywheel works versus the sales funnel, go take those HubSpot courses. They are super helpful. So there's inbound marketing, outbound marketing. I think there's a content strategy one. There's definitely a content marketing one. That's the one I took a long time ago. So go take the content marketing one. And then the second part is that there are templates. So I built my templates. I built my content strategy stuff off of Adrienne Smith. So I think her website is adriennesmith.com. And she has templates that you can buy, like the full pack of templates that tell you, like, here's all the stuff you can put in your content strategy. And that's how I built mine, was I used hers as a foundation, and then I changed mine and added things that I knew I needed. And I changed, like, I used hers as like a way to kind of build myself around like, what should I deliver and like what kinds of things should I be thinking about. And then I was like, oh, I need this and this and this, and I need to add this and change this to this. So you can go, I think it's Adrienne K. Smith. So ADRIENNEK Smith. Let me look that up. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but hold on. One second. Yeah, it's Adrian K. Smith. So when you go there, you can go to resources and then you go to toolkits. So if you go to, oh shoot, hold on. If you go to adrienekSmith.com/content-strategy-deliverable-toolkits, that will give you her content strategy toolkits that you can then look through and see what you need to deliver, how to deliver it. And also, the really cool thing about Adrienne is she has a free email course. So if you go to her website, you can sign up for her free course that tells you what you need to do in content strategy. I have recommended this to other people. I think it's really helpful when you're making the switch from freelance writing to content strategy. So the free email course sends you 5 emails, I think, and it tells you here's what you need to do for basically all the deliverables. Like here's how you would do the research, here's how you would find the KPIs, here's how you need to do the content audit and the competitive analysis. It gives you all the stuff, okay? So, and I don't know, just like as an aside, I don't know her personally. I just like fangirl for Adrienne Smith from the side. So I don't know her personally, but I've used her toolkits and they are the best. Yeah. Oh, good. So cool. 1 second. Diana says, I've been a freelancer for a long time and all of this is amazing to learn. Good. Okay, good. So this is important stuff. These are things that we need to know about, right? These are things that are really important for making the switch. So the deal is that, so if you get Adrienne Smith's Ultimate Content Strategy Kit, that's after you take the free email course. So my recommendation is to go to her website, take the free course. It comes in 5 emails. I think they're every other day. They might be every day. I don't know. But go read through all of her emails and save them in case you need them. And then once you're done with that, then you can buy the templates. So buy the templates after you take the course, because then you kind of know more about content strategy and you know whether or not you're ready to buy the templates, or if you want to wait, or if you're like, okay, this sounds really advanced, let me do this later, that kind of thing. Sorry, I'm hot, so I keep moving my hair around because it's hot. Cool. Okay, think that's all the questions that we've gotten to. Yes. Okay, we've gotten to all the questions. Great. So now we're going to get to today's topic. Also, if you feel like this has been helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you feel like you want to learn more about building a high-earning freelance writing business, subscribe. Okay, let's get to today's topic, and thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all these great questions. I think these are really, really helpful for a lot of other freelance writers. Like, I think we all kind of struggle in the abyss sometimes, or we struggle alone. So it's really nice to have these questions that are like, I know I get these questions in my inbox from more than just the people who submit them. Like, I get them all the time. So if you want to have a question, go to mandyellis.com/question. You can submit a question for the live stream, just like we had from Diana and the 2 anonymous people. So you can submit a question for the live stream, or you can submit a topic. You're like, hey, can you talk about this thing? And I'd be like, sure. So you can go there. And Marie says, Marie says, you're such a wealth of knowledge and resources. Thank you. One of my strengths, I mean, like, I try not to like toot my own horn that often, but one of my strengths is like, I'm a big nerd in like collecting things. So like anytime I find a resource or a website or a person or a template pack or something, I'm like, I get it. And then I'm like, is this actually helpful? Should I share it with other people? Like, I get all that stuff because I think it's really useful to like help other people with. And plus, like, we're kind of learning together, right? So like I get the templates, I learn about them, then I can kind of help other people with them. Okay, I haven't checked the comments either. So let me go back for the comments a little bit. All right. Marie got her new client. We celebrated that. That's awesome. Okay, Marie also says, I followed Mandy's advice from the Wealth Lab. That's my course. The Freelance Writer Wealth Lab is my course. It's not open right now, but it will be open later. I'll put the link up in a second, but it will be open in April/May of 2022. So she said, I followed Mandy's advice from the Wealth Lab, and it's made a huge difference in my business in terms of what I make and in terms of quality of clients. Good. Yay. That's always good to hear. I know that Marie has had quite the year. Like, things have really bumped up and changed for her, and I really appreciate her as a student. She's always really active in our Wealth Lab community. She's always helping out other students. So big thumbs up to Marie. And if you wanted to sign up for the wait list, so the course is not open right now. It's going to open for enrollment in April or May of 2022. If you want to be on the wait list and find out when it opens, you can go to mandyellis.com/course, and you will also get weekly tips. So in addition to the live stream, I also have a weekly email that goes out with freelance writer tips, and it covers a whole bunch of different topics that I think are really important. So it covers business, money, marketing, mindset, and mental health. So it covers all of those things. So once you sign up for the waitlist for the course, you'll also get weekly emails, and you'll also know ahead of time what our weekly live stream topic is. Okie dokie. So Diana says she does feel pressured on a call. Yeah. Cool. Oh, Marie said another thing. She said, I can't express my gratitude to Mandy enough for the Wealth Lab. It has transformed my life and business. I make much better money. I actually take time off. I don't cry anymore. That's good. That's good. Marie, like I said, I feel like you've come really far this year, and I'm really, you've been a wonderful student. I love all my students. I feel like they work really hard, and I feel like they put in the effort, and they ask really great questions. And Marie is just, she's been doing all of the work. Like, she's been helping other students. She's been moving along. She's been paying attention to who she should put on her, basically like put on her client list and who she shouldn't, and looking at all of these things where I think just that deeper level of knowledge, right? That deeper level of knowledge of like who is actually a fit for me personally. Then you can actually take time off because you're hiring the right, or like you're working with the right clients. Awesome. Okay. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, we talked about this, was that a client said they wanted a blog post, but they actually want a white paper, and that's like thousands of dollars of difference. Yeah, so we have to know, you have to know scope. You have to know what they want, right? This is the same thing about pricing on the phone. We have to know scope, because when you don't have scope, you're just like, oh, they said blog post, but then you're like, oh, they actually need white paper. That's a big difference in price. It's a big difference in work, big difference in just like putting everything together. So yeah, that's another thing about pricing on a call, is like sometimes you're like, wait a minute, it sounds like you're saying white paper, and they're like, oh yeah, white paper, and you're like, that's way different. Cool. Oh yeah, desperation is a stinky cologne. Yeah, that's from Super Troopers. Cool. Okay. Sorry, I'm going through all the comments. Toot toot. I'm like I'm not like secretly nerdy anymore. I'm like actually very nerdy about resources and tools of freelance writing. I think, I just fell in love with it. Like when I started freelance, even though it's been hard, and even though I wanted to work at Dairy Queen and I burned out, and I, really struggled. Like there's been a lot of things that I've struggled with learning, and I made all the mistakes, and I still make a lot of mistakes, and I still like overwork sometimes. I just fallen in love with like the business of freelance writing, and the part where you like build your own business. And for me, I think sharing that with other people, like sometimes it's really easy to forget as freelance writers that it's not really just about like the writing. It's actually about building a business that runs, like a little beast that like continues to run, right? And that for me is like really fascinating. And then it gives us a bunch of other opportunities. Like I have friends who started podcasts. I have friends who have big email lists where they like send things out to all their clients and say like, I'm looking for work, and they end up with tons of work. I have friends who like, I have a live stream. I have friends with courses. I have friends with downloadables. I have friends with template packs. Like we get to do a lot of cool stuff to share our knowledge. And I think that's really cool. Cool. Okay. Let's get to today's actual topic. Thank you everybody for hanging in there. So we've gone about an hour, but we're getting to the topic now. But we got all the questions in, and that was important because I don't want anybody to feel like they're being ignored, especially when they submit a question. So I wanted to make sure we got to those first. Plus, I've been sick and we were out for Thanksgiving. So let's talk about today's topic. Okay. So today's topic is brought to you by Jennifer Schmidt. So Jennifer Schmidt, sometimes that Schmidt is hard for me to say. Jennifer Schmidt submitted this topic for talking about working with freelance writing clients outside the U.S. So here's the deal. We're going to do a few different things for this. So working with freelance writing clients outside the U.S., I have done that. I know other people have done that. I know people who live in other countries who work for U.S.-based clients. So I actually have a coaching student who lives in France, and she is working with US based clients. I know someone who lives in India, and she mostly works for US based clients and British clients and Australian clients. There's people who live in the UK, that live in like, England or Ireland or Scotland, and they work for US based clients plus Europe based clients. So, um, oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess if I have a long live stream, it helps people kind of like show up. Cool. So here's the deal. Um, there are different things that happen when you work with clients outside the US. There's asked about specific countries. So I often get questions about working with working with clients who live in certain countries. That's not a thing to me. Okay, so let me start there. It's not a thing to me, it's a business thing. So here's the deal. When someone comes to you, no matter where they live in the world, they still have to be a good fit and a good client for you. Okay. So it's not about like restricting a whole country and being like, I'm not going to work for any clients in this country. That's not, in my mind, how it works. How it works is like, is this particular client, no matter where they live in the world, a fit for working with me? Are we a fit? There are plenty of clients who live all over the world who are fantastic clients. I had a friend, I don't think she lives there anymore, but she lived in South America. I think she lives in Spain now. It's been a while. I haven't talked to her in a bit, but she used to live in South America and she had South American clients. And then now she has Spanish clients, but she's from London. She was from the UK. I think she's from somewhere in England, but she lived in South America and she had different clients. And now she lives in Spain, I think, and she has clients in Spain. I think it's just a matter of fit. It doesn't. I know that I get asked about specific countries, and I know that I get asked about like, well, what about this and what about that? I think the other thing to understand is that my perspective is also like, I'm a travel writer. I like to travel. Like I like other countries. I like to go places. So I think maybe some of it is like a fear thing because some people don't travel as much outside the US and maybe they're like worried about cultural differences. They're worried about, I don't know, different stuff that happens. So for me, it's always been about fit. I don't care where you live. I don't care about like, like that. That's not a factor. Like, are we a fit? You and me talking as my potential client and me potentially working for you. Are we a fit personality wise, budget wise, work wise, timeline wise? There's a whole bunch of different factors that go into that besides all the other things. And sometimes, yes, there are different cultural differences. Like, for example, some countries are like more like they expect you to respond more. So you have to set boundaries and you say like, hey, I'm not in the office during these hours, right? So you say like, hey, I get it that this is, like it's normal that everybody's on Slack until midnight, like not going to happen. And it's okay to set boundaries and maybe that client isn't fit for you. But there's lots of companies that are also trying to get into the US. So they live in other places and they have a main office in like Belgium and they want to have another office in New York City. So they're trying to get, more audience in the US. And sometimes we're the nice bridge for that. We're able to say like, yeah, I write for a US audience. I understand the difference between a restaurant or a business in Belgium and here in the US, or you can, as my potential client, can tell me about what businesses are like in Belgium and I can tell you about what businesses are like in the US and we can kind of create content from there. So sometimes we serve as the bridge. And that, I think, for me, it's really cool to be able to live in an age where we can work with people all over the planet. Like, think about that. Now, your client base isn't just in the US, it's like anybody on the planet. Now you can work for anybody on the planet. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. We live in an age where we can get clients anywhere in the planet. Millions, billions of people, right? Well, not billions of clients, but millions at least. To me, that's a very cool perk. Like, I think working with other people from other countries, helping them with US content or helping them with content in their country, I think that's a really cool thing. That's always been a very cool thing to me. So for me, I think a lot of times that really factors into like my excitement to work with clients outside the US or for me to, I don't know, I guess I've never really like, I've always questioned, like, are we a fit one-on-one? Not like, are we a fit as like a country versus a country? So there's that. The other thing is that when we work with them, we have to do a few things. So we have to pay, like, always, number one, always put everything on your taxes. Your money isn't earned in the country that is employing you. Your money is earned in the country you're working in, as far as I understand. So like, if you work in, it's the same thing as like, you don't pay California taxes. If you work for a California company, you pay taxes where you live. I work in Austin, so even if I work for New York or Oregon or, California or Florida, I still pay taxes in Texas. So as far as I understand, that's applicable for the most part, especially since we're not earning like millions and billions of dollars in other countries. As far as I understand it, you're paying taxes within the US where you work, in the state that you work in, where your business is based. Number two, you need to have a contract always and forever with everybody who ever exists on the planet. There's no difference there. So your contract needs to do that. Sometimes there's weird provisions in your contract because there's different rules outside the US. So like, you send a US contract to them and they're kind of like, okay, well, we also need to put this on there. So like, my contract says like it's bound by the state of Texas, like the laws in the state of Texas. Maybe they're like, yeah, but we also need to put this country on there because of this. So sometimes your contracts need a few extra tweaks, but for the most part, it's basically the same thing. But you have to have a contract always. Everybody has to sign it. You need to have money, right? So that means we need to get paid. How do we get paid? I like Wise. Wise used to be called TransferWise, but now it's called Wise. And it just lets you do basically, I don't know, every currency on the planet. There's like very few it doesn't have. So basically you can invoice and do all your stuff through Wise, and it just does a daily transfer rate, or not transfer, exchange rate. So every day it updates its current exchange rate so that you get the best rate. So like let's say the dollar gets stronger, cool, now that's really helpful. Let's say that somebody else's currency changes, then you get that different exchange rate. So that's really great. I've had friends use Wise. My partner's used Wise for his stuff because he was working with someone in the UK. Wise is just the best. I haven't found anything else that's better than Wise for international payments. I've done international payments too by check. So like, I worked with someone in Canada and they mailed me a check. But if you wanted to get something mailed from overseas, I just don't do that. I would use Wise. You can use certain things, like Stripe is international, if I remember right. But it's not the same as something like Wise, where you get better exchange rates, and it's an actual tool built for international payments. So make sure that you use that. That's actually, like, use a tool, even if you don't use Wise, which used to be called TransferWise, now it's called Wise. Even if you don't use that tool, you need a tool that at least does international like exchange rates and payments, because if you end up using something that's like not updating, you can end up paying a lot of fees. Like, I remember somebody a long time ago had a problem with PayPal. They had an international client, or they worked, I can't remember if they either worked, I think they worked in Africa and they had a client in the UK. I think that's how it was. But anyways, they had like a huge problem with like PayPal fees, or like there's something like that. So Stripe and PayPal are different when it comes to fees for international payments. You definitely need to know that. You definitely need to know like what you're paying in fees, what the exchange rate is, how the money actually moves around, how long it takes to get to your bank account. Because sometimes it can take a long time. Like, let's say you use a service and you don't get the money for 2 weeks, and you've already turned in work, and like they cancel the payment and now you're screwed, right? Use something that moves pretty quickly. You understand how it works. And if you work with international clients, and I've had this be asked of me before, if you are nervous about money, or like that you're just feeling uneasy about working with an international client, wait till bank account. Like, say like I don't start work until like, not only is the invoice paid, but the money hits my bank account. Marie says Stripe is international in limited countries. Okay, yeah, so you can use Stripe, but you can't use it for everybody. So Wise is for like everybody. Like, you can work like in Singapore or Australia or Japan or the UK or South America or like Antarctica. No, you can't work in Antarctica because that's not actually owned by anybody. Okay, little joke. So here's the other thing. So tools. this is why I use Dubsado too. It helps me track everything. So if I send an invoice from Dubsado, like I'll send an invoice from Dubsado, right? But I will also send something from Wise for them to pay, right? So in Dubsado, I will make a note and say like they are paying through Wise. Or in Dubsado, I will make some kind of thing that says like, makes it so they can't pay through Dubsado. Like I'll just put the amount in the invoice and I won't create a button, or like I'll get rid of the button for them to pay that, or it'll just say like pay $0. And I will say like, yeah, this is just the invoice. So it's in our records, both of our records. And then I'm going to send you something through Wise because it does international payments. So make sure you track everything and pay attention to things. So make sure you have the right tools. Make sure that you have, hi bud, you want a Frito? Make sure that you have everything. She had to go to the little puppy's room. So tools. Sometimes they ask you to use tools that are only available in their country. So you need to know what the US version of that is. So let's say they're like, they can't use, like they use the European version of Uber Suggest, or the European version of SEMrush, or the European version of HubSpot to manage all their content. You need to have some sort of opposite tool if you can't get access to that. So let's say it's only available in that country, or like for you to buy it as a US person would be crazy expensive, or for some reason that company won't give you access or can't give you access to that tool, you need to have options. So you need to know, do a little research, look at their stuff, ask them what they use, right? Like, do you want me to just submit my content as a Google Doc or a Word doc? Or do you want me to submit it through this weird platform? Or do you want me to do this other thing? Or like, do you want me to invoice all these other different ways? So you have to know which tools you can use in the US if they're not like, if they're European or other tools from around the country that are not available in the US. So that's really important. The other thing that we need to know about is payments in terms of like ACH. So someone asked me if you could do ACH internationally, and I think it really depends on your bank, number one. Number two, those are like crazy fees sometimes, like wire transfer fees or bank to bank payments, or like ACH from country to country can be really expensive. So like I think Wise is still your best option. I just think most of the time they don't do ACH, right? Like giving someone your US bank account information. When you do Wise, no one knows the bank account information. It's just like the payment is transferred. So everybody has all their stuff set up. And that just, it's similar almost to ACH anyways. It's like Stripe. So if you're using I think just for me, it would just be easier just use one tool. So use Wise. If they ask you about ACH, I guess you could try it out. But like I said, like you have to know your bank's rules, the bank's fees, wire transfer stuff. Like wire transfers in the US are like $15, but like outside the US, they have international payment stuff. It's like $30 or $50. And it can be really expensive and cut into your profits, rather than using something like Wise that's like I think it's a flat fee. No, it's not a flat fee. It's a lot more cost effective to use something like that. Plus, like Wise is set up for that. So let's talk about time zones and scheduling. So we're on for a long time. Thank you for hanging on. I know there's a bunch of people that are hanging on. They went through all the questions and now they're hanging on. So thanks for staying on. Let's talk about time zones and scheduling. This is why I also have Dubsado. Okay, Dubsado runs my business. I need some water. I've been talking for a while, so hold on. So when you're doing time zone stuff, this is why I have Dubsado. It covers all the time zones. So if I schedule a meeting with someone, like when I scheduled a meeting with someone who lives in, where do they live? Switzerland. I had someone that I talked to in Switzerland. That calendar in Dubsado shows up in their time zone, and it shows up with my central time availability. I don't have to use a different tool. I don't have to go and Google like time zone converter. I just send them the link to my Dubsado, my calendar scheduler, just like I would for someone in the US, and they see the availability in their time zone. So if I'm only available from 11 to 5 p.m. Central Time, they will see that as, I don't know, whatever their time zone is in Switzerland. Or sometimes what happens is they're like, hey, your availability is like when I'm asleep. Like sometimes they're like, yeah, you're only available from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. my time. And then you're like, okay, well, how can we kind of balance this out? Maybe I take an early meeting. Maybe I take it at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Or you make a little scheduling thing. But now you don't have to do all these time zone conversions. You just send them your calendar and then they can kind of figure it out because it shows up automatically in their time zone. So when someone gets your Dubsado calendar link, no matter where they are, it's always in their time zone. So like if I send it to Diana, right? Like I send my thing to Diana and she lives on the West Coast, she won't see 3 p.m. Central. She'll see 1 p.m. Pacific. Can I please spell that? Yeah, so Dubsado, Dubsado. And it's not a calendar. It's actually basically like a big giant tool that manages my whole business. It just happens to have a calendar thing. So Dubsado, Dubsado. And you can get a coupon code. I don't think I put it in here yet. So, but I can put it in. So let me I'll make it right now actually. Hold on. So if you go to Dubsado, so it's, one second. Cool. Okay, I made a new one. Everybody be excited. So I just made this. So it's not super giant, but okay, it's Dubsado, Dubsado. And if you go to Dubsado and you sign up, you can use my code Mandy Ellis to get 20% off your first year or your first month. So if you choose to do the monthly plan and you use the coupon code, you get 20% off. Or if you choose to do annual I think is $350. So you get 20% off of $350, which is, we all know I'm not good at mental math, which is whatever that is, like, I don't know, $25. Is that right? I don't know. But anyways, you can go to Dubsado and use this coupon code. It runs my whole business. So I got rid of so many tools, and I need to do a walkthrough of this, and I will. But I got rid of tons of tools in my business, and I use Dubsado to run everything. Like it runs my projects, my invoicing, all of my client stuff, my calendar, my proposals, my invoices, my contracts, all of my stuff. All of my stuff is through there. Yeah, and Marie signed up with Dubsado. She loves it. The other cool thing about Dubsado, just as like a side note, you can use Dubsado for free up to 3 clients. So if you have a very, you're just starting your freelance writing business, if you have 3 clients or less, you can use Dubsado for free, which is really great. So you can start getting it set up. You can start learning how to use it. You can start doing all the cool stuff. And then once you get more work, you can move to the paid version, right? You end up getting a 4th client, move to the paid version. Okay, so eventually I'll change this so that it looks like the other stuff. But that's what you can get. So if you use my coupon code Mandy Ellis, you get 20% off the first year or first month. Oh, please don't throw up. You already threw up once today. Oh my gosh. You okay? You want to come over here and get some pets? I know. You're having a rough day, buddy. You're having a rough day. All right, so when we're talking about scheduling stuff, you can use Dubsado. If you don't want to use that, you can use Calendly. 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 I used to use Calendly, but now I only use Dubsado. I got rid of Calendly because Dubsado has all the stuff I need for all my calendar things. You okay, bud? You need some loving? You need some loving? I know. It's hard. So you can use Calendly and it'll switch time zones as well. But I think that's the best thing. I think anytime you start doing stuff manually when it comes to time zones and when it comes to trying to manage everybody, when you're like, oh, I thought you meant 2 p.m. Central. No, he's okay. He's just, yeah, he's all right. Anytime you're doing things manually with time zones, it's really easy to mess it up. I know I have done it many, many times. So the calendar tool is a must. I think that's a tool that if you're going to work with international clients, you have to have it because you trying to figure out all the stuff and you trying to figure out the different time zones, because you end up having a lot of meetings sometimes. Not only do you have an initial client call, sometimes you have a monthly call, sometimes you have, I think I'm going to let him out. Hold on. You want to go out, bud? Now it's just me all by myself. So you have to have a calendar tool because it does it automatically. And then here's the other thing is that when someone schedules something, like if they schedule something in their time and then they can't make it, at least with Dubsado, it will send them a reminder saying like, hey, so I have a reminder that goes out 1 hour before the meeting and says like, hey, just a reminder, we're meeting in an hour. Here's the button to reschedule or cancel if you need to. That way they can still reschedule on their own time. Let's say they forgot they had the meeting at 8 p.m. and they're like eating dinner with their family and they're like, oh crap, I need to reschedule. Button's right there. They can still do it in their own time zone. So I find that really helpful. And the other thing too is that they're scheduling the meeting. If you are going back and forth on email, or if you're like doing all of this stuff where you're like, maybe this or maybe that, it's just easier just to have them schedule the meeting. It's just easier to have them pick the stuff that works for them and schedule it on their own time and in their own way. Rather than trying to do back and forth emails. Hi, Raquel. Welcome. Raquel says, I'm going to pop this in, Raquel, because now you're here. This sounds very useful. It takes an annoying amount of time trying to manually make sure my scheduling blocks are accurate when planning multiple Yes, this is something that I am not good at this stuff. Like, I'm not good at time zones. I've only become recently okay with U.S. time zones because I've had to convert them so often. But I'm still not good with time zones. Like, I think like London is 8 hours ahead of New York. Like that's maybe the only one I know, but it's really hard for me. So Dubsado is definitely like, give them a tool that they can use, right? They can use it. It's already automatically converted to their time zone. You can also use Calendly. There's other scheduling tools that you can use, but anything where it's like you waste a lot of time manually scheduling things between time zones. And I used to do this all the time in the US, like trying to schedule with someone. This is the worst, is when you're trying to schedule with someone in Arizona. Like when I used to live in Arizona, they don't have daylight savings. They're on their own schedule. So you can't use mountain time all the time. It's just like a big pain. So you just give them the thing and it converts to their own time. So you're like, Arizona, you do whatever you want. You schedule on your own time. And also it cuts down on emails. You send one email. Hey, I would love to chat. Here's my thing. And then they go off and do their own thing. There's no more emails. You don't have to send any more emails because you set it up in Dubsado to send them not only a confirmation email with your Zoom link. So I do all of my conversations over Zoom, but it has the link. You can send them a reminder email that also has the link and it has a reschedule button. Like everything is automated through Dubsado. So you don't have to follow up or say like, hey, we have a call soon, or like it's all done and you don't have to do any more emails. So that's why I got rid of it. London is definitely not 8 hours ahead of New York. Is it 6 hours? I never remember. See, I'm like not good at this. This is why we have tools. Okay, so last thing we're going to talk about real quick. If you feel like this has been helpful so far, give it a thumbs up. If you feel like you want to learn more about being a high-earning freelance writer, subscribe. So here's the snafus that we can avoid to have a better relationship. Number one, understand that you are in different places, okay? There are different things that happen when you have relationships with people outside the U.S. The U.S. businesses run differently than international businesses sometimes. They have different holidays. So, for example, like Europe takes August off, right? So, like, you may not have work from them in August, or you may not hear from them, and you're like, they ghosted me. And they're like, no, I was in the Italian Riviera for like, 6 weeks. There are different things, and here's the link to Dubsado too that Tommy put in. So there are different things that happen, right? There's daylight savings, there's time zone differences, there are cultural differences, there are vacation differences, there are payment differences, there are so many different things. So in order to have a good relationship with someone outside the US, you need to kind of remember all these things. Like you need to be more patient, you need to be kind, like as usual, right? But sometimes there's different things, like maybe you speak to someone and their English isn't super great. That like they're speaking English, which is a very hard language to learn. So please be patient with them. There's other things where like they might say one thing and mean another because it's just they're trying to communicate in a different language. Or there's, make sure everything is clear. Make sure you're saying, hey, so just so I understand, this is what we're doing. This is how things are working. And then they agree to that, right? They're like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You also want to make sure that, you are someone who can handle having things at different times. So, for example, they might be working while you're sleeping. So they might give you something and say, like, hey, this is due on this date. So you need to remember that they're ahead of you, and you either need to turn it in a day early so that it gets them on time, or you need to agree that this is due by, December 3rd at 3 p.m. Central, not whatever time zone they're in. So you need to agree to those types of things so they're not like, hey, you always turn your work in late. And you're like, no, it's always early. Like, you have to agree that there's sometimes these gaps, right? These time zone gaps or these work gaps, or they say like, I need it by this day. And you're like, okay, well, if I turn it in at this time, by the time you wake up, it'll be there. So you have to agree on those things. You also need to remember that when you're having international clients, there's just like things that randomly pop up. Like, things are different. Like, just because it's calm in the US or just because something's going on in the US doesn't mean it's going on somewhere else, right? So sometimes there's these things where you're like, hey, I can't work right now. This thing is happening, or we've had like a giant flood, or, it's kind of, there's different things that happen, right, around the world. And that can disrupt us working together, right? Like, things break out or horrible stuff happens or whatever. So be more understanding. And I think, just it's rare, and it's very rare, but just try to remember that, like, people are different. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. And there are things that, differences that happen. Just be understanding and kind and respectful and clarify things. And I think a lot of times with international clients, build a relationship with them based on like serving their audience. So it's not always about like just churn and burn content. It's more about like that you're still helping their audience, whether the audience is US based or based in another country. You guys are working together with the goal of helping their audience. And I think that should be the main focus. The main focus should be like, we're working together to create content to help your audience, not just like create content just because you need it. And like, we want someone in the US who can speak like the weird English, all the weird, like, English is hard to learn, right? So you need to kind of bond over the fact that you're helping their audience do stuff. You're helping them find a product that works for them, find a service that works for them, how to do things, right? You give them how-to content, expert content, research content, interviewed content. You're kind of bonding over the fact that that's the point. The whole point of the content is to help someone. It's not just like, let's just create some content. Cool. Okay. Any questions? Any questions that we can go over? I think we went through a lot today, so cool. Yeah, you can check out Dubsado. That's my lifeblood. That runs my whole business. I'm obsessed with it. I tell everybody about it. You can use the coupon code that I put in here. I feel like I can make it bigger. Hold on. I don't remember what the other ones are at. Is it this? Ooh, that looks large. That's large. Okay, hold on. Oh. Can I do this? I can do that. Okay, anyways, I'll just make it back to its regular size. Anyways, so you can go to Dubsado. You can use my coupon code. Sorry, I'm messing with all my stuff. I guess I'll have to fix that later. Anyways, you can go there and use my coupon code if you want. Thank you so much for staying on. I know there's been a bunch of people who have been here, so thank you so much for showing up. I'm glad we got to the questions. So if your question got answered, good thing we finally got it on the live stream. If you have a question, you can go to here and you can submit a question. So we'll answer it on the live stream just like we did today. Or if you have a topic, you're like, hey, can you talk more about this topic? We can put that on there. You can also submit anonymously. So if you don't want your name on the live stream, you can submit anonymously. Cool. All right. Thank you for a great live stream today. We went a bit long, but thank you for staying on. And I hope everybody has a great Friday. Bye.